me. But I am happy to go on if you want.
No. So I will just literally start and introduce you, and then you do all the admin stuff. Muy buenas tardes, good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining this side event. It is for me an honor to welcome you, and I'm sorry that we are starting a few minutes late, but as we know, there's a lot of things happening at the session, and there was a very important event also before, and so they left a little bit late, but thank you for your patience. And with this, for those that do not know me, I am Astrid Puentes Riaño. I am the UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. And I'm coming to this session to present my report on the ocean and human rights. And so we also decided to organize this side event to have a little bit more time to unpack and talk about not only the report, but also the perspective from several states and also civil society organizations on this very important issue. And so for that, I really appreciate and I'm grateful for all the support from the core group and also for sponsoring this side event. And I will want to introduce to Diana Rizzoli, that is from the Geneva Environmental Network, that will be generously doing the moderation for the event.
Thank you, Excellency. I'm just waiting for the mic to work. Okay, there we are.
There.
So many thanks, Madame Special Rapporteur. Thank you for bringing us all together this afternoon ahead of your interactive dialogue at the Council to discuss your report on ocean and human rights. To open this event, we are joined by Her Excellency Ambassador Salma Rashid, the permanent representative of the Republic of the Maldives to the United Nations Office and other international organizations here in Geneva. Maldives is the current pen holder of the core group on the human right to clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. Excellency, you have the floor.
Yes.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to be part of this important discussion on the critical link between human rights and the ocean. I wish to begin by commending the Special Rapporteur for her timely and insightful report. Her reflections remind us that protecting and conserving the ocean is not merely about safeguarding marine ecosystems. It is at its core a call for justice. Justice, dignity, and the fundamental rights of millions whose lives are shaped by the ocean. Ocean degradation is not just an environmental crisis, but a human rights crisis. As climate change accelerates, rising seas, coral reef loss, and extreme weather events threaten the very existence of island nations like the Maldives. When fisheries decline due to warming waters and habitat destruction, it is not just an ecological loss. It is a loss of livelihoods, heritage, and sustenance for those who rely on the sea. For Maldives, the ocean is more than a resource. It is what defines our identity, our economy, and our survival. Our fisheries, particularly our one-by-one tuna fishery, are a cornerstone of our culture and a vital source of income and nutrition for our people. The wealth of our ocean is not just an abstraction. It is not concentrated in the hands of a few. It is the heart of our communities, directly supporting about 17,000 fishermen and their families. Yet, despite our commitment to sustainability, our fisheries face increasing challenges, from climate-induced changes in fish stocks to the growing threats of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing undermines the livelihoods of coastal communities, depletes shared resources, and often operates through exploitative labor practices. It is not just an economic crime, it is a violation of human rights. As a country that has built its fisheries on ethical, sustainable, and science-based management, we cannot afford to let criminal activities threaten the future of our nations. The international community must take stronger action to deter and eliminate illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Strengthen monitoring and enforcement, and ensure that small island nations like the Maldives are not left to bear the burden alone. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, beyond that, we must place greater emphasis on ecosystem-based fisheries management. This approach is not only crucial for environment sustainability, but also essential for safeguarding the well-being of the people who depend on the ocean, protecting marine biodiversity, ensuring healthy fish stock, and restoring ocean ecosystems directly contribute to food security, economic resilience, and community well-being. The health of the ocean is inseparable from the health of the people who depend on it. Ocean protection must be central to the global decision-making. For decades, the international community has made commitments to uphold the principles enshrined in the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and implementing agreements, to see the Paris Agreement take full effect, and to make the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework a reality for all. Yet, despite these pledges, our ocean remains under immense threat, and vulnerable communities continue to bear the heaviest burden. The time for incremental change has passed. We cannot afford to wait for sea levels to rise further before we act. We cannot stand by as coral reef decline continues, livelihoods disappear, and pollution poisons our waters. What we need now is bold, decisive action from the global community. We call for global action to align and strengthen global commitments and ultimately ensure a healthy ocean and protection of human rights. We must demand greater accountability from those who exploit marine resources sustainably, whether through overfishing, unsustainability, whether through overfishing, destructive industrial practices, or pollution. And most importantly, we must recognize that coastal and island communities who have lived in harmony with the ocean for generations are not merely victims of climate change, but leaders in resilience, adaptation, and solutions. Their voices must be at the heart of global ocean policies. The Special Rapporteur's report provides us with a clear roadmap for action. The responsibility now lies with us to ensure that its recommendations translate into concrete commitments and tangible change. The Maldives remain steadfast in this cause. This is not just a matter of environmental obligation, but a fundamental human right. Let us seize this moment to reaffirm our collective dedication to protecting the ocean for future generations. I look forward to a fruitful discussion ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your remarks on the importance of the ocean. They help us set the scene for the discussion that we are now going to start. Joining the UN Special Rapporteur here on the podium, we are welcoming His Excellency Ambassador Christian Guillermet, the permanent representative of Costa Rica, as well as Ms. Claudia Pineda from FIAN Honduras, and Ms. Tina Rey from Women for Biodiversity. And I will start by turning to the UN Special Rapporteur, Madame Fuentes. Your report on the ocean and human rights that you are presenting this week to the Human Rights Council is also your first report to the Council. Can you please share with us the main findings and the recommendations that you are making in the report? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the first thing that I wanted to address is exactly, this is my first report to the Human Rights Council. And as we know, the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment includes substantive elements and also procedural elements. And the substantive elements cover pretty much everything in the planet, including clean air, safe climate, healthy and sustainable ecosystems, healthy water and food, and non-toxic environments. And when we talk about the procedural rights, we're talking about access to information, public participation, and access to justice. And one of the biomes, or one of the key elements in the planet that is under threat, as we know, is the ocean. And the ocean is one single biome. It's not only a biome, as we know, it's a source of life, many cultures, as the ambassador, as we heard from the ambassador, and yet it is being treated, even in the UN and different organizations, in a siloed and compartmentalized way. And so one of the key elements that I wanted to contribute with this report is to make it and to remind ourselves that the ocean, and this is actually something that I learned and I was constantly reminded by Costa Rica, is that we're talking about one ocean and not in plural. And that is specific and intentional as well. As you can see also part of the annexes, I tried to do it in the specific report, but it was not possible, but it's part of the annex, is a projection of the ocean. It's a map where we have the ocean at the center and then continents around, so that we remind ourselves that that is how the ocean it is. It's all connected. And of course, the different names and limits is what humans and states have done it. So from the threats that we have, and scientists, for example, have identified, as you know, 9 planetary boundaries that today we have crossed 6 of them, and 7, that is ocean acidification. We're close to be crossing it soon unless trends are changed. And there are many alternatives to do that, stopping that trend and changing it, in which having not only the ocean at the center, but also a human rights-based approach and the human right to a healthy environment is key. For many reasons, we know that states have obligations, but at the same time, and this is linked to compartmentalization and siloed, there are ocean governments for now is not including yet a human rights-based approach in a systematic and consistent way. And even the UN conference, for example, that we're going to have in June, one of the things that we're working also with some states, including Costa Rica and France, is to make sure that it includes a human rights perspective. Because anything that we do, and that's why I highlighted a lot, ocean issues are also human rights issues, as we also heard several times from the ambassador. And this is not a slogan. This is about existential for humanity and a lot of communities. But it also will help states and the world to advance and achieve the sustainable development goals that have been very important, but are millions of dollars behind, but also a lot of efforts on that. And yet we are seeing little advances to that. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight here and not take a lot of time is that thinking the ocean about as a biome that is connected, we need a gender responsive, holistic and integrated way for ocean governments that is rights-based and ecosystem-based approach, and also recognizing and including not only scientific-based knowledge as from a Western perspective, but also including values and rights and sovereignty for indigenous peoples, small-scale fisheries, local communities, because there's a lot of scientific information there as well. There's, as you mentioned, there's several recommendations. I want to highlight, if we do 2 things, maybe 3 things, is to remember that all ocean issues are human rights issues as well. So no matter if we're a state or indigenous peoples or a business, we all have human rights responsibilities, and it's important to incorporate that. The other one is to advance a consistent and collaborative perspective. So to incorporate this human rights-based approach and to be able to be consistent and coherent with what states and also the UN is doing, and also indigenous peoples, because we know that things are not divided. And the third element also is to rethink what is that we're doing in terms not only for the ocean, but the demand of resources that there is. We had earlier today a whole side event on deep sea mining, and one of the conclusions that we know there is that there's a lot of critical minerals that are not even needed if we manage better the demand. And so that is something that we definitely have to have in mind in order to advance actual and effective protection for the ocean. And I thank you for this space and for your participation.
Thank you very much, rapporteur. Let's now turn to the permanent representative of Costa Rica, Ambassador Guillerme. Costa Rica is a member of the core group on the right to a healthy environment and also co-convener with France of the third UN Ocean Conference that will take place in a few weeks. As highlighted by the Special Rapporteur in her report, the three proprietary crises of climate change, nature and biodiversity loss and pollution has profound impacts on the ocean and on human rights. So following up on what we have heard from the permanent representative of the Maldives and from the Special Rapporteur, what are some of the most urgent measures that states should be prioritizing to address these interconnected challenges? And how can these measures also be implemented? And if you could also, in your answer, reflect on what you see as the most critical multilateral negotiations or initiatives that will shape the future of ocean protection, and how can the international community best support these efforts? Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Diana. And first of all, I want to thank you for the invitation, but also I want to congratulate the Geneva Environment Network, because this panel is the panel of the future. We have only women, unfortunately, as men by me, but I think that the governance of the oceans and the main topics of the future are in hands of women. And as men that we were dealing with those issues for a long time, I think that it's time for us to recycle and give the place for all of you. And having said that, which is, I think, is a very auspicious beginning, I think that the most urgent action that the state should take is to stop, and there I join Astrid on the saying, is to thinking on silos. We still have this approach on silos, and this is the compartmental approach. It's not good, and also we have scientific data that have the evidence that climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution are all linked. And so when we discuss environmental action, all these three elements, we need to consider them all together. And but if you allow me, I think the most important silos that we need to break, and there again I join Astrid on that, is to break those ones between environment on one side and human rights. We have advanced in the recognition that the health of the environment affects the enjoyment of our human rights. And of course, the recognition by the Human Rights Council and the General Assembly of the human rights to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is one of those great advances that we succeed. Of course, we still a long way to go, and there's still some areas where the interaction between environment and human rights seems to continue to be unknown. And I think, if you allow me, and that's why with France we are working so close, one of those issues is the ocean. And the report from the Special Rapporteur is at this moment an excellent tool to explore this interaction. For a long time, we have seen the ocean as this vast mass of resources, more looking at it as a resource place that seems to regenerate by himself, which means we didn't take care about the health of the ocean. It has been a buffer, our buffer. It was protecting us from the adverse impacts of climate change, but its health is in danger right now, which means our own well-being is also in danger. The international community recognized the importance of ocean health in adopting SDG 14, and we are coming up with the third UN Ocean Conference we are organizing with France, where countries will inform of their actions towards the achievement of SDG 14. With this, with the objective for sure of accelerating action and mobilizing all actors toward the conservation and sustainable of the ocean. And one of the objectives of the conference, which brings me to Diana's second question, is to accelerate the adoption of current international processes linked to the ocean. We hope that the time of the conference close in June in Nice, the BBNJ agreement can come into effect. We need 60 countries to ratify, and we currently only have only 20 countries have done so. Very important multilateral negotiation is the plastic treaty, which we also have its next meeting here in Geneva in August. And we need to agree on an ambitious treaty that addresses the whole life cycle of plastics and that hopefully can include a strong human rights safeguards. Be sure that Costa Rica, with others, and I hope with all of you, we will try our hardest to include them in this treaty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. You were speaking about breaking silos. The report of the Special Rapporteur indeed touches on many different topics. And we are now linking SDG 14 to other SDGs, including SDG 2, for example. On food, we are turning to Claudia Pineda from FIAN Honduras, a human rights organization dedicated to protecting, promoting, and defending the right to food and adequate nutrition. Ms. Pineda will be speaking in Spanish on channel 2 only for this speaker. You will have the interpretation in English. So I'm turning to you, Ms. Pineda, as the Special Rapporteur has highlighted in her report, the intersection of ocean health and food security is critical, especially for small-scale fishers and coastal communities. Can you kindly share with us what measures should we be implementing to ensure that ocean policies prioritize both ecological sustainability and the protection of communities' right to food? And also, how can human rights frameworks help address existing disproportionate impacts and improve policies and solutions? You have the floor.
Buenas tardes, distinguidos miembros del panel, asistentes a este evento tan importante, relevante, sobre todo en momentos tan cruciales para comunidades costeras en el mundo que dependen sus medios de vida directamente de la salud de los océanos. Honduras es uno de los países con riquezas oceánicas de mucha importancia. En ellos, ecosistemas que inclusive albergan especies en peligro de extinción. Tal es el caso de la mosquitia hondureña, parte también del importante arrecife. Sin embargo, a pesar de su relevancia, un estudio reciente en 9 sitios del arrecife hondureño indicó que un 40% está altamente comprometido con las humanas, ocasionando, entre otras consecuencias, la pérdida de especies de importancia para la alimentación e ingresos de la población. Lamentablemente, esta situación de degradación ambiental y consecuente impactos y ambientales se suma que se desarrollan actividades exploratorias y de posterior explotación de petróleo y gas natural dentro del mar en la costa de Honduras. Ante las múltiples amenazas que he mencionado antes, creemos necesario y urgente que los estados adopten y cumplan normativas nacionales y regionales que garanticen la protección de los ecosistemas marinos. Asimismo, es esencial que las definiciones de esas políticas y medidas, las comunidades pesqueras, indígenas y afrodescendientes participen activamente, siendo parte de la gestión ambiental. Reciban apoyo para fortalecer sus capacidades, acceder a financiamiento y diversificar sus medios de vida. Todas las acciones deben basarse en un enfoque de los derechos humanos, garantizando a estas comunidades el acceso a bienes naturales y productivos, la provisión de servicios básicos y la protección ante efectos del cambio climático. Esto implica un compromiso global para frenar la explotación de hidrocarburos. Es importante también avanzar urgentemente en la negociación del instrumento jurídicamente vinculante sobre empresas transnacionales que regule sus actividades, las obligue a respetar el principio de precaución y la responsabilidad jurídicamente por la destrucción y contaminación de los ecosistemas y violaciones sistemáticas a los derechos humanos. Sin mecanismos efectivos, la devastación ambiental y las violaciones a las comunidades continuarán siendo impunes. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Ms. Pineda. We are now discussing another important topic addressed in the report. I'm moving now to Ms. Tina Rey, a leading voice in the nexus of gender and biodiversity. As it has been highlighted in the special rapporteur report, the degradation of ocean ecosystems has significant gender impacts, particularly on women's livelihoods, food security, and climate resilience. How can policies and programs be designated to better address these to better address these challenges, and how women leadership and gender perspective are strengthening these processes? If you could also reflect on key opportunities to strengthen a human rights-based approach internationally, considering how you are active in other forums, including, for example, with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, the UN Convention on Climate Change, the upcoming UN Conference on the Oceans, and other multilateral processes where you are present. And you were mentioning to us yesterday that it's your first time here at the Human Rights Council.
Hello, everybody. I'm pretty loud. I hope everybody can already hear. It's always difficult to have a session after lunch. Thank you so much for the panelists and for Astra's report. I'm going to be taking in a few, very few reflections on that, because I think the report that Astra has already got a really rich background on the importance of the ocean and human rights. It has got a lot of issue that it has kind of also brought about, and also has a list of amazing action-oriented recommendations. So what I just want to kind of focus on today, very briefly, I may go beyond gender because with the CBD, and I heard Ambassador talk about the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, where we engage very, very actively in that one. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to do differently in this session today was looking at just one paragraph of the 10,000 report, and it has amazing, amazing inputs into that one. Is this one particular paragraph, everything is amazing, but on this particular one, that talks about that the way that we look at ocean and marine and coastal biodiversity is that it is not only a matter of managing natural resources. And I think we've heard from our colleague also from Honduras and others actually over these 2 days, and the importance of oceans not only for a purpose of counting carbons, but also it's linked up to, and I think also Ambassador Malvi talked about livelihoods, right? The cultural, the social interlinkages that are really very important for us to bring about. So yes, this is my first time at the Human Rights Council meeting, and it is with an aspiration coming here is how does this process documentation coming out from here guides the member states when you're talking about addressing the Paris Agreement or the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and the upcoming ocean conference. Then how do we really ensure that the meeting there is coherence, because there are elements, human rights is an element of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It does talk about very popular 30 by 30, but also understanding that target 2 of the Kunming-Montreal is not about only protected area, but is also a restoration target 30 by 30. We should never really forget that, because we sometimes always kind of miss out that link. And also understanding from Indigenous peoples' gender perspective, saying that it is also very important to look at the so-called, we're always talking about the whole of society approach, but sometimes we always miss out on what it really looks like. In this very discussion, I wanted to put in by saying that it's not only about looking at the future, but we need to really act now. We really need to make sure that how the policies and program is not saying that, okay, this is what we are going to be doing for having these resources for the future generations, but what can we do? What can we do? I think at the present time is a preventive measures, right? It's not like, let's see what happens, let's do it, and we may have to deal with it next time. I don't know whether this one has a third slide, but I'll just put on some few, only 4 minutes, sorry, I'm just rushing. Is that what's really important for us? It's okay, I didn't put that thing. Is that core element around really ensuring that how do we really link up the work around ocean and human rights is all that we have talked about, is looking at the recognition of the rights of Indigenous peoples and local community, these are fisher folks. And a lot of the things that we talked about is looking at the balance between protection and livelihoods. It's really very important because you really can't look at oceans as a resource only to be depleted, right? But also saying that these resources are also the livelihoods, the cultural connections with communities that engage with them on an everyday basis. Not you and me, who are in cities, most of us, right? We're very far removed from those spaces. And how do we really make sure that the people who are dependent or are contributing to the conservation, preservation, connections with those resources are also part of the decision-making process. And I think one thing about addressing threats to chemicals, waste, and pollution, I think it's really very important because in Astrid's report, if you haven't, do read it. They are all really all linked up in those things. And I say that, you talked about, because all the sessions, there's a lot of focus on fishes. Either you're talking about big companies or you're talking about small scale. And as you know, that one of the biggest discussions in that discussion has been plastic pollution in marine, especially fish stock. So these are all very much linked in. And just want to also add that there are also emerging issues if you are following either the climate or the biodiversity, and how do we really make sure that these do not violate human rights. And they are a bit touchy subject, but I will put it up there, is things like geoengineering. And again, Astrid has actually a section on geoengineering, blue economy. She's also talked about the blue economy. And also there are these discussions around these emerging technologies, which we don't know what they will do. And they are like solar radiation modification. Some of you are familiar with these ones. So how do we really balance this idea where technologies are there to kind of try to mitigate so-called, solutions for us to be living in a, I don't know, safe world versus the diverse impacts it may also have on the oceans or on any other ecosystems. And I suppose also the last I just want to say is that understanding that for the UN conference of hope, I think Ambassador is also here, is that how do we really ensure that the UN conference on oceans that is taking place, it is very timely, it's really happy to see the discussion, but making sure that it's not only one track to looking at only mitigating to climate and carbon, because oceans are more than that. It is not only, oceans are not only a biodiversity reserve, it is more than that. What do we really mean when we say that? Let's not look at, again, oceans as, again, something to solve a problem, but also looking at that we need to have a holistic approach to the oceans. And that will only happen if we really take in all these intersectional approaches, the holistic approaches, not only the quantitative, but the qualitative approach to oceans, and make sure that human rights is definitely embedded within that discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tina. We have the team of the Special Rapporteur who has prepared this event has also included a video that will really bring us to what's happening in the ocean. It's a video from the Philippines, but before we launched the video, I wanted to ask if our panelists wanted to add a few comments or remarks to what has been shared, or something they may have missed to mention, then came to their mind later. Anything you would like to add? No. So I think we can launch the video, and so just a few words from the to present this video. Sorry. It's a video on the impacts on human rights and the ocean of a project in the Verde Island Passage in the Philippines that was prepared by the Center for Energy, Ecology and Development and the Protect VIP campaign. So let's have a look at the video, and the sound will probably come from here.
At the heart of the Coral Triangle in the Western Pacific Ocean lies the Verde Island Passage. This marine corridor is home to over 300 coral species, underwater rock canyons, reef formations, and 60% of all known shorefish species in the world. This makes VIP the most biodiverse marine habitat in the world, making it comparable to no less than an Amazon of the oceans. Provides sustenance, livelihood, and other benefits to over 2 million Filipinos. VIP today finds itself in great peril as one of the 4 provinces in its vicinity, Batangas, rapidly turns into the hotspot of operation and expansion of a destructive industry: liquefied natural gas and fossil gas. Batangas is home to 5 of 6 existing gas plants in the Philippines, 8 of 27 proposed new plants, 7 of 9 planned terminals.
Bagamat mababa ang emisyon ng carbon dioxide ng mga gas plants, matindi at malala yung emisyon niya ng methane. At ito yung pangunahing ini-emit ng fossil gas. It is actually deadlier than carbon dioxide. Ayon nga sa pag-aaral ng SEED na sinagawa last year, ay nakikita na tumataas yung mga pollutants. Isa dito na nakita ay yung pagtaas ng level ng mercury sa Verde Island Passage. Malinaw ang involvement ng international players, ng katulad ng Shell, ng JBIC, at ng mga mayayamang bangko sa Europa at Estados Unidos.
Pag kami lumalaot, minsan may huli, minsan 2 kilo sa buong magdamag. Yun po hindi araw-araw. Ang akin pong anak ay 6, diyan ako kumukuha ng pang-baon sa eskwela, pagkain namin araw-araw. At kapag po ako'y nakagaling sa dagat, di ipagbibili po ng aking may bahay. Kung minsan, sa hapon, wala na rin kakainin, wala na rin isasaing. Lulusong na naman po uli ako na hindi ko alam kung ako ba'y makakahuli uli ng may ipagbibili ang may bahay ko. Hanggang sa dumating ang panahon, dumaan ang panahon, pawala ang nauhuli.
Natural gas extracted from the ground contains impurities, water, and other associated liquids. First, it is processed to clean.
Sa bahagi ng simbahan, nananawagan tayo na protektahan at ingatan ang kalikasang biyaya ng Diyos. To protect our common home. Ito panawagan din ng ating Papa, si Papa Francisco, sa kanyang encyclical na Laudato Si. Hindi mo isinasakripisyo yung mga tao dahil lamang sa kikitain o sa interes ng negosyo. So, dapat ay ang environment o ating kapaligiran ay isang biyaya na dapat nating ingatan at hindi dapat na sirain.
Pakinggan naman nila ang sektor ng mga mangingisda. Kasi yan po ay wala ngang lupa, tanging sa dagat yan nakaasa.
Protect Verde Island Passage now!
Keep LNG and fossil gas off our coast.
You have clear examples from the field. We still have time for questions. So before I give back the floor, I see a few hands over there. There was Slovenia before, but it's down. And I see Zambia, correct? You have the floor. Then after Zambia, Slovenia, and after that, Suriname, I heard. So please go ahead, Zambia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beatrice. I live here working with us in the question is about the river. Recently in Zambia, we had pollution in a big river where everyone got to get the fish. But there was an issue for the sign of symptom, amnestic fish, poison. It was accidental from the company. And this time, no one is eating fish, fresh fish, because there is fear of a norm.
It's strange.
The poison, it seems like it's, toxic. Somehow, it's very dangerous. And this fish, it might go into this poisoning, it might go into the ocean. But my question is, how can we involve human rights?
Thank you. I think we can take one more question from Slovenia, and then I will have to give the floor back to the Special Rapporteur.
Thank you very much. Question is just going to be comments and appreciation for your work. Thank you very much for this event. Thank you for the exchange. It truly is a great reminder to the necessity of human rights-based approach to environment and in general in oceans in particular. We are remembered and we should note that there is just one ocean and that our environment interconnects us all. And that we need to work even harder against silence approaches in environmental action. And Slovenia, as you know, believes very strongly that we need to speed up the process of mainstreaming the human rights that will clean, healthy, and sustainable environment to prevent its further harm. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Slovenia. I'm looking at the time. I know that there's a marathon of events in this room. Should I give you back the floor so that you can reflect on the comments from the First Lady? And thank you.
Sure. Thank you for that question. And I think that both that situation that you were sharing with us today and the video that we watched in Zambia crossing examples from the Philippines shows the importance of bridging and that's exactly the objective of the report, of the importance of having a human rights approach to everything that has to do with the ocean, including rivers that goes to the ocean. Pollution from land pollution and marine pollution, but land pollution is one of the key drivers for the degradation of the ocean that was also included here. And of course, each one of these topics can be one single report. And your question about how to link it, I can think about several key points. First of all, it also raises and I don't know the exact situation of that. I heard about the accident, but I don't know exactly what happened before. But the spills evidence the importance of a human rights perspective from the obligation of the states to prevent, to respect human rights and prevent and fulfill human rights. And so a lot has to be done beforehand in order to have, for example, environmental impact assessments, adequate information, adequate measures to contingent measures also, so that when these situations happen, then there are adequate protocols to contain the spill as fast as possible so that it doesn't pollute the ecosystems, and then, as you were describing, pollute the fish, which then impact population. As you also saw here, and I learned, and I just reflected from a lot of the information that is there, millions of people worldwide depend on good protein and micronutrients from the ocean. And so that is something that is impacting, as we unfortunately are seeing as well, that soils are decreasing the amount of nutrients, thinking about the right to food that we're eating. So that is one of the key important aspects, and that's one also the link with human rights, because it's one of the reasons why it increases inequalities. And I just want to close with the importance of, when we talk about human rights, it's not only the obligation of states, but definitely and also the obligation of businesses, all businesses, private and public, to comply with their obligations. When there is a request for environmental impact assessments, businesses must comply with that in an adequate way, because of course, in addition to that, it diminishes their financial risk. I identify several recommendations. One of the things that I want to close with is protecting the marine areas effectively is key, including prioritizing fragile and rare ecosystems. We also not only have the resolutions from the Human Rights Council, we have also resolutions from the UN General Assembly, and we also have very useful advisory opinion from ITLOS, from the Convention of the Seas, that we must use it. Even states that haven't ratified ITLOS, that UNCLOS, sorry, hopefully others will. And then advancing and committing with the obligations that are pending, ratifying BBNJ, something that I also highlight in the report. And I'm very pleased to see that for the last few months, we have seen increasing states ratifying BBNJ. And so, of course, I really look forward for that to happen, and the plastic negotiation, because all of these agreements are key and incorporate. But I want to also highlight another thing that I learned from doing the report is that there are over 600 agreements regarding the ocean, and still we are in very big trouble. So again, having a human rights-based approach and the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, to me, is a great tool to be able to bridge all of these silos and to actually be able to advance the consistent and holistic solutions that we need. And I really I'm grateful for everyone to be here to think about that, to continue collaborating. I'm just starting the mandate. I really look forward for the next 5 years and even beyond, not as a mandate, to continue understanding and packaging and addressing and be able to transcend these challenges so that we can advance the solutions that we need. Thank you.
I think we can all applaud them. So our candidates this afternoon have highlighted the importance of incorporating a human rights-based approach in all ocean efforts. You have mentioned a few, including, for example, the plastic negotiation that is coming to Geneva in August this year. So maybe many of you will be also involved into that. I just wanted to thank the team of the Special Rapporteur who has prepared this event, and also bring to your attention that, as you have heard, the report of the Special Rapporteur is full of different messages and of important information. We are organizing talks in the margins and as side events of this Human Rights Council session. We have one tomorrow that is an official side event to the Council, and we have 3 talks on Monday in Building H. You can find the information on our websites. Please join us, because those discussions with the Special Rapporteur have been really very useful and interesting, and are linking to various multilateral processes, and that can be particularly useful for the representatives from the permanent missions who are here in the room. Thank you.